Hi, it's Future from Sewmate. Welcome to my channel. If you want to see how I make this beautiful stable knit dress, please stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. I'll be uploading more videos each week. And make sure to turn on the notification bell so that each time I upload new videos, you get notified. You will need your no dot bodice block patterns for stable knit fabrics. To do this, I'll leave a link in the description below and a link above as well. So we're going to start with the front. First, trace around your block as usual, making sure to mark all the notches. Lift your pattern. Square in your waistline. Lengthen your dress to your desired length. I'm using 50 centimeters and square a line across like I'm doing. Square another line down from the hip line. With your curved ruler, smoothen the curve. Now I'm adding the hem allowance, which is 1 centimeter. Lower the center front neckline by 2 centimeters and square a line across. And square another line down from the neck shoulder junction. Now with your curved ruler, connect these points to form our new neckline. Going to have a 3 centimeter wide neckband, so just follow through your neckline in putting 3 centimeters parallel to the neckline, making sure to square at the center front and the shoulder. With your curved ruler, smoothen the curve. So we've got a 3 centimeter wide neckband. We went down 2 centimeters on center front and a further 3 centimeters for the neckband. Now I'm adding my seam allowance for the neckband, which is 0.6 centimeters, because I'll be using my serger to join this. And I'm going to add the seam allowance for the shoulder there, which is 6 millimeters as well. Since I'm using a serger, you can choose to use whatever you want. Now I'm adding my notches to the pattern, and the center front is going to be on fold. Now get your tape measure and measure along this seam line here. Make sure not to include the seam allowance for the shoulder seam. Now write this measurement down. Now I'm adding a grain line to the pattern and labeling the pattern. Front dress, cut 1 on fold, and I put my initial. Now cut around your pattern. And our front dress is finished. Now moving on to the back. Trace around your block as usual, marking all the notches. Lift your pattern, square in your waistline. I'm adding a seam allowance for the shoulder. And extending the length of my dress by 50 centimeters as we did with the front. Square a line across and square another line down from the hip line. With your curved ruler, smoothen the curve. Now adding the hem allowance 1 centimeter. Just following through the neckline curve there, adding my 3 centimeters for the neckband making sure to square at the shoulders and the center back, and coming in with the curved ruler to smoothen the curve. So still 3 centimeters wide neckband. And adding a seam allowance, which is 6 millimeters, since I'm using an overlocker. Now my center back is going to be on fold and adding the grain line. Adding notches to the pattern and labeling the pattern, back dress, cut 1 on fold, and I put my initial. Next, measure the seam line again like we did with the front and write down the measurement. Make sure not to include the seam allowance for the shoulder. Cut around your pattern. The back dress pattern is finished, and now we're moving on to making our neckband pattern. Get a fresh pattern paper, and you will need your 2 measurements that we did earlier for the front and back seam. We're going to add these 2 together. And for mine, the total is 31.6 centimeters. Next, we're going to find a 1/7 of this amount. That's dividing this total by 7. I got 4.5 for mine. Next, subtract this amount from your total measurement, so 31.6 minus 4.5 for mine, and I get 27.1 centimeters for mine. So first, draw a straight line, then square a line which is your neckband width times 2 on one end of this line. So our neckband width is 3 centimeters times 2 is 6 centimeters. Now I'm going to measure 27.1 centimeters from the squared line and square another line up, which is 6 centimeters again. Now join these 2 lines with a straight line like I'm doing. Next, we're going to add seam allowances to our neckband pattern, 6 millimeters all along, except for one end where we're going to put on fold. Now I'm adding my grain line in the middle of the pattern paper and labeling the pattern, neckband, cut 1 on fold, and I put my initial. Now cut around your pattern. And our neckband pattern is finished. Next, we're moving on to making our sleeve. You will need your basic sleeve block pattern for stable knits. I'll put a link in the description below and a link above as well. First, trace around your block, marking all the notches. Lift your block, draw in your grain line, square in your elbow line. Now measure from the sleeve head down for 25 centimeters. Square a line across to one end. Measure from the under seam to the newly squared line. Transfer the same amount to the other end and draw a straight line, joining it to the squared line. Adding the hem allowance 1 centimeter and adding all the notches to the pattern and labeling the pattern. Short sleeve, cut 1 pair and I put my initial. Now we're going to use our original grain line. Now we're going to fold along our new hemline like I'm doing here, and cutting around the pattern. And our sleeve pattern is finished. All our patterns are finished. Now we're moving on to sewing. Now moving on to sewing our dress. So what you need are your completed patterns, your fabric, and your cutting tools. So I'll be using this multicolored double knitted fabric. Now let's move on to cutting our fabrics. So now we finished cutting all our pattern pieces. So the first step we're gonna take is to take both the front and back pieces and lay them one on top of the other, right sides facing. Pin along the shoulder seams. Now take this to your sewing machine or your serger. I'll be using a serger in this case. If you are using a sewing machine, make sure to use a zigzag stitch so that it will be able to stretch around your body, okay? Whilst you're there, take your neckband piece, fold it halfway, right sides together like this, and pin along this edge. Now take this to your sewing machine as well, and just use a zigzag stitch to close this seam with a 0.6 cm seam allowance. I'm going to be using a serger for this as well. Let's do that. Okay, so that's done. I've done the shoulders and I have sewn the seam here to attach the back of the neckband. Okay, now lay your dress right side up like this. And we're going to take the neckband and fold it in half lengthwise like this. We're going to divide this into quarters using our pins. So hold the seam and fold the rest of the neckband. So we're going to align the edges and put another pin on the other half. Align your two pins together. And just fold the other quarter like this and place another pin there. Do the same on the other side. Align the pins together. And just pin on the other quarter. Now we've got our shoulder seams already. So what we're going to do is to align the shoulder seams and just put a pin. The same with the front. Align the shoulder seams together and put another pin. So this will help us to align our neckband. So we'll put our pins against the side seams and against these 2 pins here. Okay, so take your neckband, make sure to put the seam at the back. Okay, so we're going to align the seam here with this pin here and just put them all together. Then next, align this second pin with the shoulder seam. Pin it all down as well. Next, we're going to align this pin to the front pin here. Pin them along. And finally, we're getting the last pin and aligning it to the shoulder seam again. And pin it down. So we'll take this to the sewing machine or serger. So I'll be using a serger. I'll just go and serge all along the neckline, making sure to stretch the neckband to fit in with our seam, okay, on every quarter. Make sure to stretch to fit in with the seam, okay. So whilst we're there, we're going to do our sleeves as well. With your dress right side up, get one of your sleeve pieces, make sure you've got the right one for the armhole, and just pin it along the armhole, making sure to match the notches. Now take this to the sewing machine or serger and sew along the seam here with a 0.6 centimeter seam allowance. Remember, zigzag stitch for sewing machine. Let's do that. Okay, so now the neckband is nicely sewn on, and I also went ahead and gave it a nice press, and I also finished off sewing the sleeves, and I gave them a press as well. So now we're gonna finish off our side seams. Turn your dress right side facing. And we're just going to pin along from the sleeve here, from the sleeve hem, going all the way down to the hem of the dress, making sure to match all the notches and seams. Let's do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this to the serger and sew from the sleeve hem all the way down to the dress hem for both sides. When we finish with that, we're going to hem our dress in the sleeves. So for the sleeves, just serge right around both sleeve hems and then turn it under 1 centimeter and sew with a straight stitch. You can be stretching a little bit whilst you are at it. Do the same with the hem here for the dress. Serge right round, turn under 1 centimeter. You can actually use a twin needle if you want, but I'm just gonna do a single straight stitch, just stretching as I go along. So let's do that. Okay, so I finished the side seams and I finished hemming the dress, looking nice and neat, and hemming the sleeves as well, looking nice and neat as you can see. And our dress is finished and I'm happy with the result. Thank you.